One of my viewers bought me a frog, specifically an angry frog. And not just one angry frog, but 3 angry frogs. These are Grugs, D&D miniatures known as humanoid frogs. And I want to do something special because I am the wargame frog. So I got Plinth and I started adding some core to it. Bear in mind, these miniatures are really small, so if you want to do a project like this, it might take a little longer. But the overall idea should stay the same as you continue your own project. Basically, what I'm doing right here is filling in the gaps using a mixture of super glue and PVA glue and some rocks. I hunted a little bit for a good branch to put on this piece, and I stumbled upon this Sylvaneth bit, and I thought it looked perfect for this. But now we're on to priming. I did a Zenithal and then some contrast paint and got it all over the place. Making sure every nick and cranny was filled before I moved on to the next step. Just watch that paint flow. I then took some of this wet ground texture paste and used an old damp brush and let the idea of nature flow through me. Now, while we wait for that to dry, we can work on the Grugs themselves. Carefully opening the package with a knife, and then super gluing them to bases temporarily. I did a Zenithal, and I painted all these frogs green. I was originally thinking about doing multiple different colors, but in my mind's eye, these were all swamp frogs. And I figured they'd all be from the same species, so. I also didn't want to do too many highlights with these guys. Normally I love to do highlights on my miniatures, but since these were so small, I figured a good, simple moot green would be sufficient for this. And in the end, I was correct. So as I paint these, I want to know, what is one of your favorite miniatures or settings to paint? I'm curious to know, and let me know in the comments and down below. But just going through each of these frogs, making sure that they all look decent under the light. Now, I didn't want these frogs to be too complex, because yeah, they have some detail, but I don't want the detail to get washed out. So I decided to just do the green with some red eyes and leave the weapons almost as if they were just Zenithal. But as you see here, I just took some Flaywind Flesh and highlighted them, made them a little bit more interesting, but I didn't want to overcomplicate this piece. I then took some more of that Flaywind Flesh and highlighted just the edges of this branch thing. Just picking up the sharp details, making it look a little bit more like a tree. And then just highlighting some special little parts, making them pop out a little bit more. I then carefully cut these things off their bases and finally attached them to the plinth itself. One small little froggy at a time. Plop. Plop. And plop. I then took some blue and some green, mixed it all around, did some wet blending on the base, getting ready for a resin pour down here. This will be the deeper parts of the water, because I come in with this lighter green color and start to highlight where I imagine the shallower recesses would be. And for me, it was covering most of the space, but still leaving some of those little depths in there. To me, this water is gross and nasty and filled with moss and stuff. So I didn't want it to look all one color. I then wiped off that brush and started to blend it in again. Now I added some foliage, different tufts and grasses, and finally UV resin. I was originally planning on doing a normal resin pour, but given how small this diorama is, I decided to do just a few coats of this UV resin stuff. And I'm just trying to force it into some of these cracks and crevices. I don't want any floating water effects. I just want it to look all natural. As if these grugs are protecting this bit of pond or something like that. And I'll be 100% honest, I don't know much about these monsters. So if you do, you can also tell me about it in the comments below. But I intentionally left some of these plants unglued so that way it can flow better within this resin and pop up a little bit as if it was floating inside or above the water slightly. I then tilt the piece, trying to get it everywhere. Then I do a second layer. And a third, just trying to mimic that wavy texture of water. Then I decided I should add a little bit of freckles on them, and here it is. All done. Anyway, I hope you liked this project just as much as I did. I had a lot of fun doing it, and thank you for whoever sent those frogs. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and much love and peace! Frogs?
Frog.
Frogs?
Frog.
Frogs?
Frogs.
Frogs?
Frog.